They formed colonial America and then constitutional America later on. And so the United States is represented by the earth, which helps the woman, dries up the waters of persecution. But then I want you to notice verse 17, a very, very important verse. It says here, and, that connects it with the previous verse, and the dragon was wroth with the woman. Why was the dragon wroth with the woman if you connect this verse with verse 16? Because the earth has done what? Because the earth has helped the woman by swallowing up the waters of persecution. Now the dragon is what? The dragon is wroth with the woman. He's angry with the woman. And what does he do? It says, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed. And then they have two characteristics, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Two characteristics. They keep